Hello, I think we're live again. Hello and welcome. This is the Code to Culture Afterthoughts live stream. My name is Richard Simon. I am the cloud therapist. Greetings to you all. I hope you are all well and hope you're all doing well. Those who are in hot climates, and whether it's the night or morning or whatever it is for you, I hope you're all doing well. Special welcome to any England supporters who are they're either at the World Cup quarterfinals or maybe going to be watching it tonight on TV or in a pub somewhere in England. So yeah, absolutely special guests going to be joining us as well. And we will, I don't know, maybe I will go and watch it at some point. Go and watch the match tonight against Argentina. So we'll see how we get on with that. As you can see, I'm donning my England shirt for the live stream today, and then we'll see how we get on. Now, as we said, this is the Afterthoughts live stream for the Code to Culture series. We thought what we would kind of really do a sort of a review of the all 6 episodes, and then maybe take any questions if there's any people online, whatever. And certainly we kind of thought, let's do it as a recording, and then we thought, let's kind of do it as a live stream. I think it might be quite cool to actually do it as a live stream. So here we are. So we have a sort of a pretty much packed agenda for today. Got lots of stuff to discuss. But before we do that, let me introduce you to my co-hosting partner for this series, Saim Safdar. He is the host of Cloud Native FM. Please do subscribe to his channel. Go and check him out. We'll drop all the links in the chat for you and things like that. But yeah, let me bring him back on and let's say hello. Saim, how you doing, mate?
Hello, Richard. It's finally back to be here. And Richard, it's been, first of all, you have a very late hours for you because it's Argentina versus England. I know there's a little bit of a party going on at the home, a lot of cheering, a lot of things. But I think England journey so far in the World Cup is very, very great. I think they beat one of the match. I think one of the best match I've seen in England versus Mexico. We see how much.
Yes, that was good. That was good. Yes, that was a good effort. Absolutely. Yes.
But the tougher task ahead today for England. But we'll see where it goes. But best wishes for them. I hope we can do a live stream if England goes to the final.
Yes.
The final World Cup and
maybe we'll do that next time. We'll do it. We'll do a platform engineering versus the World Cup or something.
Absolutely. That's a great fun. But
yes.
Luckily, we are here, Richard. And after, I think, 7, 8, I lost count. But I think it's closer to the year when you started the series Code to Culture, Platform Engineering Unpacked for Enterprises. We never know when it should be completed. But finally it is. And we are reviewing we're reviewing it, and I think it's a huge appreciation and a thankful note to all of the participants from
definitely
the different organizations.
Definitely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, we'll maybe just get into the weeds of sort of how we sort of organize the things like that. I think that might be, of interest for certain people who are watching and maybe kind of want to do something similar on their channels and things like that. So we'll kind of maybe pass on some of our checkered experience with how it all kind of worked out and everything. So yeah, we'll certainly do that. But yeah, there's kind of lots of stuff to, I think, cover there. But yeah, shall we bring in our resident co-host?
What do you think, absolutely.
Shall we do that?
Her, we can't even able to complete the series. So yes, it's your duty. It's your duty, Richard, today.
It's my duty. All right, hang on. So I'm going to do it now. Let's bring her on to online. There she is. Woo! How are you, Courtney?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with both of you. How
I know. I'm glad you made it. I was like, is she going to reply to my WhatsApps or what? It's like,
I know.
You're going to be like live streaming in about 48 hours.
No. Yes, I always show up.
You always do. Lastminute.com, but there you go.
I always do.
Yes.
Richard, I think we can also say that congrats to Courtney for the part of the world that's already been into the final of FIFA World Cup.
Yes. Spain is already through. So yeah, which was a bit of a surprise, really. I mean, I thought that, and it was 2-0 as well. France didn't even get to score one goal. So I just thought Mbappe will kind of, just run rings around everybody in Spain. But I think they've been, I think people were saying they've kind of been somewhat underrated at the World Cup. So
yes,
and they've kind of flown under the radar, sort of thing, which is interesting.
So Richard, I think we definitely say this because they beated their France for the first time after 2018. They've been unbeaten. They have been unbeaten. Last week. And no, I think everybody predicting, but the results are absolute. And I think the way France played has been brilliant.
Yeah.
And I was expecting that to be. But Courtney, big congrats to you. I know it's been a football-loving country, and I was always been people's participating there. So hopefully, Richard, it's been if England versus Spain or something different there. Oh my word!
Wow, we'll see.
There should be one hell of a live stream between three of us.
We'll see. We'll see what it's going to be like. I mean, I'm sort of cautiously optimistic about tonight. England's kind of versus Argentina is always an interesting match. They are a formidable opponent, and shall we say the history of our two countries has not been fantastic over the decades. I'll just leave it there. I won't go into the politics of it. But we've had our run-ins with the Argentinians a couple of times, once or twice, I think, in the recent past. So we'll see. And I don't know how they view it, really. I don't know whether they've kind of got over that, or we've certainly had some issues with one of their players in the past in the World Cup as well. Again, I won't go into the details of that. But yeah, it's been interesting politically and on the sort of the sports scene, the football scene as well. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I'm kind of cautiously optimistic. I think the choices that have been made for the team, for the England team, have been very good. So I'd rather kind of have those sort of fresh younger players kind of joining and doing their best and just kind of giving it 200%. So we'll see how things go. All right. Okay. So I suppose we need to kind of get back to the topic of culture a little bit. We might get back to the football later, maybe, but let's talk a little bit about the series. So yes, I mean, for me, really, I kind of started the crazy idea of wanting to do this. I never thought we'd do like six videos, 6 parts to the series, and I certainly never expected to complete it. Really, it was kind of quite ambitious when I first thought about it. But for me, it was like a discovery, really, a sort of a journey to go through and learn about, platform engineering. I remember at the time, and having actually done a previous video, which we'll drop to you guys in the chat, with 2 of the guests actually came on to 2 of my episodes later. Mark Peters and Gotham Palapa. So shout out to those guys. I did a video with them, and I was extremely skeptical at the time, and I'm kind of still somewhat skeptical of the of kind of how it's portrayed, how platform engineering is really portrayed in terms of how people are doing things now versus kind of how they were doing them before. And I picked on some interesting quotes from some of the episodes from Saim's, and I think from my ones as well. So I will quote those as we maybe go through the episodes. But for me, it was really an idea for kind of let's get some people that are doing this. Let's get them on a video. Let's talk to them. Let's interview them about it. Let's put out some of the more, not controversial, but just kind of some more of the sort of spiky sort of issues around platform engineering and how it's done and the opinions around it and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, how can we do that? Following on from that video, like I said, that I did with Mark and Gotham. And I thought, okay, well, let's do it as a series. And then I thought, okay, get a bit more ambitious, and then we'll do 6 parts. And then I thought, okay, I got to reveal the next part to Saim, which is he's going to have to host 3, and I'll have to host 3 on my channel. So yeah, so we did that as well, and then I think that was, relatively successful in terms of kind of what we wanted to actually achieve on the on the series. Yeah, and that was that's where it's really sort of the ball sort of started rolling from that point really. And the idea was to I have no idea what we're going to do and what we're going to talk about, but let's put something together. Let's see if we can work on it. And then the episodes, I think we'll maybe just go through. But yeah, that was kind of the concept. That was the idea. And I wanted to kind of just really dive deeper into it to understand it a bit more, get into some of the obviously terminology and stuff like that. So that was the area of interest for me, really, that I kind of wanted to get more into. And I didn't really see any standards at the time. Some of the books that we've kind of touched on, like Gotham and Mark's book, and the other ones that I've picked up on, I don't have them here anymore, but they're around somewhere. But there's been lots of kind of platform engineering books over the last sort of 18 months and things. Every KubeCon or whatever con event I've attended has had somebody signing a book, and there's certainly a platform con a few weeks ago. Again, we did a live stream of that, guy, so we'll drop you a link in the description or the chat. Again, there were people, I think there was about 3 book signings there or something, which was amazing, for a relatively sort of small event in comparison with, I don't know, something like KubeCon or something like that. So there was nothing really in that kind of space that I could see anyway. Maybe there were a couple of books, maybe I've kind of missed them, but it wasn't kind of prevalent. And then I thought, okay, so there's no kind of hard and fast rules here. This is, there's a SIG, which obviously Colin Griffin, our friend Colin Griffin, and again, shout out to Colin, is kind of been part of for the CNCF and things like that. But I just found that kind of stuff murky unless I got hold of Colin, and then we pinned Colin down for a conversation. Said, Colin, what have you been saying at KubeCon? All the events and sort of discussions and things like that. It was kind of, I didn't see really a sort of a good path for the information. So so that was kind of really the idea, and like I said, it kind of went from there. And then we went on to and then we kind of, once we got into it, we started looking at really sort of the planning. So how are we going to really do this? I think it's probably the most planned sort of series of videos that I've done. So I do a regular one every month with my regular guest Paul Bevan. Shout out to Paul again for Class State of Play. But that's normally just 3 topics, and they change. The topics change every month. So I don't really do regular sort of talks like that, and certainly not kind of in a particular area. And as soon as I said to Saim, I think 6 parts, and then I thought, damn, what are we going to talk about in 6 videos? Is there that much to talk about in platform engineering? I was like, I don't know. Let's find out. So that was certainly a kind of a running concern until we probably looked at the 6 titles, and I mean the last one was always going to be a futures and a review kind of thing. So it ended up being the PE sort of class state of, or rather PE state of play, sort of platform engineering state of play. But at least the 5 episodes, I thought, I don't know if we can fill it. I'm not really sure there's that much to talk about when it comes to platform engineering. But as we kind of looked into it more and started looking at, okay, what areas can we go in? What sort of topics would be interesting? The subtitle was Platform Engineering Unpacked for Enterprises. So that was really the idea of, doing this as well. So internally for me, it was just curiosity and me kind of just being, curious about it. And externally, what messages can we put out? Who's this going to benefit? It was really kind of, for any organization that's looking to do this. And this could be kind of customer conversations that I've had and others who, might be interested in doing it. So there was always, I think, the idea, I think we agreed very early on, right, that it was going to be enterprises included in it, as well as we didn't want it to all be vendors and them selling their solutions and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I think we always have the question, like, me trying to live on the bleeding edge, saying, oh, there's a new tool, there's a cloud native approaches, there's Kubernetes, there's GitOps, there's service mesh, there's so many other things including in it. And then the new field emerging as a platform engineering to answer like all of this complexity. And we always have debate, with Richard. Is everyone, like, are these bigger enterprises really interested in this motion? And Richard always have some sort of skepticism. I told them, oh no, we are very far away in the galaxy where platform engineering, now the certifications are popping up. So there's the things moving on nicely. And the Richard is on the other angle, like, oh, is really there the invested interest? I've seen it. We have enterprising using it. So luckily, I think for the series, we actually invited vendor plus the people who actually practicing the platform engineering in their enterprise setting. So that's a very unique way. Like the builder has your own aspect into it, and then then there's a people in the enterprise who actually started experiencing it. I think we invited Joke on the 3rd episode, and he was building some tools on platform engineering. That's called the front end platform, and that's, I think, the 3rd series on that topic. So I think if people can go and watch the series, there's some very good lessons into it as well. And let me remind people, we have the host who is very much technical, who lives in the ecosystem, who's helping projects being graduated in itself. So that's really flourishes the movement. And he always attended these platform engineering KubeCon, so he knows what sort of questions to put forward to the audience as well. So I think there's a unique angle into it because we're living the different hats on our own daily routine works, and Richard has their own hat of understanding it. And then we actually participated, the guests who had participated, they only have their own version of the platform engineering itself. So it's kind of a very kind of a debate where people like to not just yes, but it's a critical debate, like why, how to do that, what's the persona to need to build out these as well. So I think we started, I believe, in August last year, but I completed the first episode in September sometime. So we are living in the July, Richard. It's close to the year. The series in the making. We should have, I think there should be a documentary in the nearest KubeCon around
maybe we can talk about that KubeCon next time. Kind of how not to do a platform engineering series or something. Thinking about it on your YouTube channel or something.
Yeah, we can write a book and have a book.
Exactly. Yeah. Courtney, what was your sort of initial thoughts when we approached you? I'm curious to know because you didn't really say anything. It was like, are they serious or, oh yeah, this sounds like fun. I could do 6 episodes.
I mean, some people who know me know that it's hard for me to turn down a challenge or something that sounds a bit out of the box. Like the more challenging or out of the box it sounds, the more excited I am.
Okay, that's good.
Jump in and try it out.
In that case, I've got plenty to drag you into, I think, for the rest of the year.
Yep. And so as soon as the two of you were like, we're both located in totally different places than where you're located, and we have totally different YouTube channels and totally different spectatorship, and we want to do a podcast between the two channels. And it was like, the more you explained it, the more I was like, wow, I'm in. Because
you're a sucker for a good challenge. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, life is about experiences, right? And
well, believe me, as I explain those things, to you, like, we're going to have people from different time zones. It's going to be 6 parts. We're going to do different stuff. As I was saying that, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, what am I doing here?
But also,
I'm convincing, and I'm not convinced myself.
Right. As a community organizer, this is something that like the more you were explaining it, I was like, there's a method to this madness. Whereas because I spend a lot of time in communities where everybody's in a different time zone and doing different things. And
That's true. Yeah.
Try to find like a North Star that's common.
Yes.
Whereas for you, I think the more you explained it, the more you were like, what in the world have we said that we're going to do? But regardless, life is about experiences and people, and so any new experience with good people, I'm thrilled to jump into. So it was an absolute honor that you thought of me first and asked me, and it's definitely been a fantastic experience.
Well, we were. I mean, just kind of a little bit background to anybody who might be interested, may not be interested, but we were. I had planned to do something with you. So I met you in person. I met you, I think the first time was at the, was it SuCon or was it the last Platform Con last year?
No, I think it was at the SoCon, the Open UK.
Okay, right, yeah. So we met in London, and which incidentally was the same location as Platform Con. And then, yeah, we had a chat, and then I thought, okay, this will, let me do something with Courtney, so we should do something together. And then we were going to do something together last year, but that didn't materialize. I think either the report didn't come out or something. It was something, and I couldn't really get that particular talk together. And then I thought, okay, I need to get sort of Courtney into something else that we're going to do. And then, Code to Culture sort of came up as an idea, and I thought, yeah. Let's get Courtney in here. That'll be cool. She can do all 6 episodes. I don't have to. So that was great. It was like, yeah, it's on my channel, but I'm not there half the time.
Richard, just a quick reminder here, because when the series started, Courtney is really busy. He is the forefront man who's leading to and spearhead the Kyverno into the graduation project. I know how much this could be time consuming. I can actually feel this because I'm part of the project in the open source. And while she was doing with us this series, she was really busy. So I think I'm really thankful for them because they actually participated all of the 6 episodes. And me and you is only have the leverage to host 3 episodes. So you can understand this, how much of the extensive task we have given to the Courtney, and she always up for the mark.
Definitely.
So 10 out of 10 for Courtney.
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
than anything, I'm just proud that my kid didn't interrupt any of our recordings. that was the one I was like, oh my gosh, it's waiting time. Everybody's gonna see my disaster of a platform going on at home.
Richard, you pack something for Courtney's son because he deserves to give some kind of
for being so patient and so understanding, I guess.
No, this is very much I can do it at these times when he's at the swimming pool, or I can do it at these times when he's asleep. Or
Brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. No, I think that was definitely, I mean, having you was, I think the honor was ours, really having you on. And I think you brought not just the legitimacy, I think that the series kind of needed, but also the gravitas and knowing that space. And we didn't have to necessarily go through any rehearsals and stuff like that. I would literally kind of drop you the script the day before or on the day sometimes. And then in the afternoon, we're recording with 2 new guests and things like that. The one point I want to also make was actually in terms of the diverse sort of, view. So we said sort of enterprises were on, vendors, yes, because that was always going to happen. And then kind of, Courtney, I guess you also brought in that sort of community spirit into it as well, which was great, because that's not always kind of represented. And I always feel, we need a little bit of that kind of the community. What does the people feel? And they could be, just developers, they could be enterprises, they could be other vendors or, people from other, vendors and things like that. But the last one, which was a real coup, I think, for episode 6, was actually having Jennifer Riggins on, who is a full-time, 9 to 5, whatever, 24/7 journalist, tech journalist. So again, shout out to Jennifer, and thank you for her attendance on episode 6. So we kind of really stretched, I think, the reach even further with Jennifer as well. And then we had some authors on, of course, like Mark Peters and Gotham have literally written the book on platform engineering. Do go and actually check that out. I'll try and find the link and drop that for you in the chat as well. So that was really cool to have that on. Okay, so yeah, in terms of planning, I'm not going to kind of bore everybody with the details, but we did have to do a lot of planning. So Saim and I kind of went to the sort of the background once we convinced ourselves that we should do this, and then had Courtney on board. So it was kind of just planning the 6 episodes. So I'll read out the titles just for the 6 episodes, so we kind of know and set the scene for these. So episode 1 was Internal Developer Platform, of course, Hype or the Real Future of DevOps. So this was Saim's first episode. So he started this series actually with episode 1. So IDP, I think, was always going to come into it, and a lot more probably last year than this year, maybe, in terms of hearing about IDPs. It was certainly more prominent, I think, last year. The second one was kind of around sort of the enterprise journey. So it was from DevOps to platform engineering, the enterprise journey. That was my first episode, or second episode in the series. That's when we had the guys from NatWest in, which was fantastic. So again, full on, enterprise customer end user experience on platform engineering, and their journey was really interesting. Again, I will pick on some of that as we come through the actual episodes in a bit. Third one was Golden Paths versus Developer Freedom. Can we have both? So this was Saim's second episode or third episode in the series. So this was I think this was a really important question to ask. Obviously, we expanded on on that particular discussion point, but sort of, I'm always, one of the early things I was skeptical about on platform engineering was, developer freedom, and we kind of mentioned that. I think you joked about it as well. I think Courtney, when we were talking to the guys at NatWest, I think we'll come to that. I made some points around that, so that was interesting. But yeah, this was kind of, I think, same exploring episode 3. Then episode 4 was platform as a product. So this idea of everything that you build in sort of platform engineering sort of is like a sort of a product approach. So just how you'd produce any other product out there that you make, whether it's a vacuum cleaner or a car or something like that. So everything kind of being treated in that type of sort of approach, and almost kind of a sort of a factory approach in terms of how you build it all together. So platform as a product. What happens when engineers become product managers? So that was the title for episode 4. Episode 5 was back to Saim. So this is platform engineering futures. So the role of Gen AI and platform observability was Saim's exploration in episode 5. So that looked, I think, at the sort of the future of platform engineering, a little bit more around sort of observability and SRE role, I think, in the whole sort of platform engineering space. So that was good, and obviously AI couldn't help but kind of bring in AI into the conversation. I think we held it off. I think it's about sort of 4 episodes, but then we had to bring it in on 5 and 6. And then talking of 6, it was platform engineering state of play. So that was the 6th episode title. So that was back to me to kind of conclude the series. So I think it kind of worked out really well that Saim started it, and then we kind of alternated between the two. I do have a playlist. So I will drop that again in the comments in the chat for you in a minute, which is actually connecting all 6 episodes together. So if anybody's interested in binge watching Netflix style, you can do that. I probably wouldn't recommend it. Probably a bit too much platform engineering in one go. Probably end up being an overdose of platform engineering. But certainly there, if you kind of want to go through maybe 2 episodes at a time or something like that. So yeah, that was interesting. That was kind of, again, looking at sort of the last maybe 12 months, 18 months of where platform engineering has been and where it's kind of come to. But it also ended up actually being, if you recall, Courtney, we ended up kind of really having just a normal conversation around platform engineering as well. I think we, with Gotham and Jennifer, they kind of brought different views of it. There was certainly a lot of anecdotal stuff, I think, as well, if you recall.
Yeah, it was one of the things that I loved best about all of the episodes, actually, is that everyone came with real world stories about their experience, whether it was building their platform, wrapping their head around what their platform was going to do and who it was going to serve, the adoption of their platform. And so those stories, I think, were probably the most valuable parts of a lot of the episodes because they were very real, but also incredibly diverse. And I think the biggest takeaway from that is the reality that everyone's platform is going to be drastically different, right?
Yeah.
So much of it depends on the talent on your team, their knowledge base, what your actual business value is that you're driving forward, and what you need in order to be able to do that well. And every single business and team looks different, and therefore requires a different platform in order to make things work. And so it was fantastic listening to people share their stories and hearing how very different they were, but also the baseline that the majority of the issues that they were having had nothing to do with any of the tools or processes that they were trying to do. It inevitably had something to do with the people they were trying to service, or the understanding of what it was they were trying to implement to help people, or the concept of what help means to different groups. So it was fascinating that at the end of the day, all of those stories were actually talking about far more human and HR oriented problems a lot of times than the actual technical aspects of the process itself.
Yeah. I mean, I think, there was certainly a lot of sort of areas to kind of explore, in the series, and just going back to kind of the scripts and the titles. I think I had certain areas that I wanted to go into in terms of the direction of the conversation, and again, purely selfish reasons, as I said, to kind of, for me to kind of get to grips with it and learn, from people and ask, this was kind of really, as I said, my opportunity to really be able to ask, people who are kind of doing this, practicing this, they're in interest groups and, organizations, they got a product, around it, or the whole company's based around it or something, or it forms a big part of their maybe organization or something, or they're actually practicing it. So that was the reason why I thought, it'll be good to just compile everybody. What were kind of your initial thoughts as you and I kind of talked about this series? Just kind of give us your view of it.
I think one thing is always fascinating me for the platform engineering conversation is like amount of developers involved, like everybody who want to build the platform, who want to tell the world like a lot of the pain point. The developer is a primary focus for them. I don't know why only the developers, but I think it might be the starting point, because developers see a lot of the pain these days. Because if you ask any developer today, or help build me an application for, let's say, for just a little bit, who just show me the scores of the two teams playing for the FIFA World Cup. So they have to build out the Kubernetes cluster, the image signing, verifications, a lot of proxy tooling in there, the cert manager, the policy engine. So there's a huge ladder for the developer to actually climb on the top of it as well. So when actually starting the series, this was really the pain point. A lot of the people is still talking about the developers being bombarding with the tool, and we need to give them some practicing in the tool. When we started the series, I tried to research a little bit what are the platform has been developing, who are really the frontal kind of a developer focus kind of a developer DevOps or the a developer experience focus kind of the tool. And luckily, I find the very new one of the tool, and this called front end platform is sort of kind of a way we started by the joke who's actually participated in our series. And he talked about the very good concept. It says we have been going very far away, but the problem is there that we developers are having the front end and we do not know how to run those front end tooling in itself. So he started kind of an idea of to run the platform in a self-service manner where they have all the convergence of the front end tool and somebody running on top of it. It just experience few command here and there, and you have we have the workflow is running. So that's a very good give learnings lesson for us, so that these things are also being developing side by side as well. And also on this I think episode 3 or 4, we invited Sentaso, Cat Morris, and I think he's done some of his use cases for the platform is very, very interesting to learn about. Where I think one of the use case he was mentioning on the platform where he worked with a bank, and I think some of the banks in the UK. So I think if anybody who's been looking forward for where the platform accelerate their journey, I think some of the Cat Morris examples are really fascinating. I think people can still watch out on the go and on the YouTube channel and watch out as well. And I think in particularly for the series in particular, I think we try to understand two there. There are people who are accelerating in the platform engineering space and people who are completely new to it. They doesn't know what the hell is going on in this world as well. And then there's a third people who run the generative AI, and they're trying to see that the platform engineering is kind of very right balance for them. Like you cannot accelerate with your generative AI movement unless you have some practices and principle in place. And that's a third order into it as well. And the fourth order I already spoke about is that developer is bombarded with the tool. We need to give them self-service tooling, self-service capabilities. These are I think I kind of rate them a very high in the platform engineering journey in itself. And then I think we speak about with the NetWest folks, the people who are running the platform. What are the KPIs? Like you move from something else to the platform engineering. What are your KPIs? Are you measuring it? Are you measuring to see some of the result that is beneficial for them, and you no longer see them in your previous practice? So we tend to, I think the episode 4 or 5, we speak with the networks folks on your YouTube channel, Richard. And I think that's a very good journey. We ask about the measurement criteria for the platform. Yes, you are moving in a direction where the platform is a central figure. But as you move along, what are the KPIs? How do you measure that? Is that successful? Is it something you actually left behind? So that's another, I think, the 6th part. The 5th ladder, I kind to see this. And the 6th is me and your favorite ladder, Richard, is what about the generative AI observability on the platform? Like, we no longer live in a world where I can, Richard, run a Kubernetes cluster and that the Slack message appears, something has been broken. And Richard can say in his heart and mind, why do I fix it if I have AI capabilities to fix these things up? So how do we build out the systems where something has been broken, but you have some sort of remediation techniques, some sort of remediation capabilities in the platform that can auto-remediate it? So I think that's a 6th part of our series that I think we've done. And I think hopefully in the near future, because me and Richard understand this while we're running the series, that this 6th ladder is a very crucial one. Might we dedicated our more time in the near future to build out a 6-part series or 3 parts. We're kind of not sure how much episode we got, but I think this area of generative AI and observability is kind of a very serious or a very critical critical debate these days, where we can spend more time, a dedicated time, on this sixth part, the sixth ladder of the platform engineering in itself. So
Yeah.
I think we covered some grounds on already been there. But Richard, I think there's a time in the near future you will be busy again. Sorry for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's I do agree with kind of the observations that you've made, and we'll get to the episodes, I think, and just dive a little bit deeper into those, because I kind of made some notes and some interesting things I thought I'll tease out of the conversations that we've had. But yeah, I mean, I think just going back to the serious and sort of the formation, we always kind of thought that maybe in order to, with kind of Courtney sort of being able to drop in and do either drop questions of her own, or give us her perspective as well. 2 or 3 kind of other guests will be a maximum. And to be honest with you, I think, I think Saim, you managed to pull off 3 other guests apart from you and Courtney in the first episode. But just kind of coordinating calendars with everybody was a nightmare. So having more than 2, and then Courtney hopefully being a little bit more flexible, which you were, just doing that, and kind of them being on different continents, it was like so that was hard enough, I think, to do, and it's hard enough to actually do on panels. Even when I do the panels, and then there's somebody from the US, and you've got 2 people from the UK, or maybe one is continent. That's not that bad. It's only an hour difference. But just kind of doing it from with somebody in the US, it tends to be quite hard. I actually did it once with I did one where one person was from the UK, but the other one was from Australia. So it ended up being, I don't know what time it was.
Very early morning.
Yeah, very early morning, either for him or for me. I can't remember how we did it, but it was a huge difference in the time. So that was interesting as well. That was around AI, yeah. So that kind of, I think, was kind of part of it. And then the scripts, I think, came actually surprisingly relatively quickly. I did some research, in the background. Like I said, I kind of selfishly put out the things that I wanted to go after. Ideated, I think, with Saim on most of the content, especially with his episodes. But then relatively easily, I think most of it kind of fell out. We just looked at teams, we looked at IDP, we looked at AI, so it was kind of like that, those kind of subcategories. And then from those subcategories, yeah, we ideated with ChatGPT and stuff like that. And it was like, oh, how about this? And I was thinking, oh, that's a really good suggestion, because I didn't even think of that. And then I kind of added in a lot of that elements, and then we went back, I went back with Saim to agree those, and then we made some more modification, and then finally sort of came up with a end script. But actually it was relatively quick because I mean, the whole platform engineering space has got its own terminology. Like, it's got things like team topologies, IDPs, golden paths, and yada yada yada, and you could go on forever. Kind of metrics and ROIs, and all these kind of things, right? And the DevX comes into it, and stuff like that, right? So I think those were kind of our sort of flags that we could see from a mile away, and then we could say, okay, let's just aim for those, and then along the way we're going to pick up some questions that are relevant for our guests, and obviously the questions were oriented towards the guests. So like the episode 2, when I did that with NatWest, it was like about them. It was about their journey. Well, why did you guys do this? Where did you start? How did you convince everyone? And then my favorite, when I asked Chris, I think, how are you measuring the ROI? When he said, we don't. And I was like, oh, okay. Of course, I forgot you're a bank. You don't really care about stuff like that. So that was interesting. That was a very interesting answer. But it took me back to, I mean, as I think as Chris was saying that in the episode, it took me back to my days at IBM and working with the financial sort of sector. in the square mile in City of London, they were literally like that. It was kind of literally, this new technologies come in like virtualization or SANs or whatever at the time. It was like, yeah, what does IBM do in that? Okay, we do this. Okay, great. Bring one of those in. Let's have it. And then they would just sit there and evaluate it. And then we say, okay, can we have our machines back now? They say, no, we'll buy it off you because we still want to do some more evaluations. And they just didn't care. It was just like throwing lots of money at in a kind of research and stuff like that. So I understood that sort of answer. It wasn't kind of alien. It was still surprising to hear it, but wasn't kind of an alien sort of concept really. So, but yeah, that was kind of the idea. And then obviously we kind of changed tact when we looked at some of the other guests as well in the other episodes. Okay. So I guess juggling I think was the thing, and then format and keeping kind of the consistency around it was interesting. So I've got some notes from most of the episodes, but I'll let you guys kind of come in on the episodes. What was your recollection of them as well? So episode 1, which was the internal developer platform hype or the real future of DevOps. This was Saim's episode. I think we kind of started. We wanted this series to start with just some simple definitions. What on earth is platform engineering? What on earth is like an IDP? What's an internal developer platform or portal, as some people might like to call it. Yeah, and anecdotally, I asked somebody else not associated with this series. He was actually going to be a guest, but I didn't get around to getting him to agree. But I did ask him about, is it a platform or is it a portal? And he said there's people actually that he knows have a fight over this, have a real argument over this at the pub over a drink. It's like a real major thing. Some people are very touchy about it apparently. So there you go. Anyway, so. Yeah, from is it David Stenglein or Stenglein?
Yes,
Stenglein, I think. Yeah, was your guest. Same. So he said something interesting. A couple of points that he said was interesting. He said IDP helps everyone to do DevOps, which I thought was actually a good kind of way to introduce it. And then focusing on doing DevOps rather than the infrastructure. And then to take it to the point where you depend on it like a product. So like you have a lawnmower and then that cuts your lawn and grass and whatever you've got. This is the same thing. It's that kind of approach. So that was an interesting quote from David on episode 1. And then Brian Ross was in your other guest, and he talked more about sort of having a quote unquote centralized function, and DevOps or the developers are your customers. Is you kind of orienting your sort of activities in platform engineering towards developers. And then Colin Griffin, who was your third guest on episode 1, he said, it's a curated collection of tools and resources for developers. That was kind of his definition of IDP. I don't know if you guys had any recollections of sort of any other stuff or those particular ones for definition of IDP.
Yeah. Those are the main definitions that I remember. I also loved the fact that there was a slight debate around around which one is more correct. Right, or which one was more clear about what they were doing. But again, I feel like that just reflects how different everyone's platform actually is. For some people, it is a portal.
Yeah.
For other people, it is not.
Yeah.
and depending on what that infrastructure looks like and how you set it up and who you're servicing, clearly changes those definitions.
Can I ask you something, Courtney? This is, and you have experience in this more than me and Sam probably put together. And I'm just breaking out of talking about episode 1 because there's a lot more I want to kind of cover in that. But would you say platform engineering has kind of been the most loosely coupled type of framework or approach or ideology even that we've encountered compared with, I don't know, let's say DevOps before it, or observability, or virtualization, anything really, any other type of thing? Would you kind of say it's a, because of these things like, it's a portal, no, it's a platform, it's a whatever, would you say that it's kind of been more loosely coupled than ever before, which kind of adds to this, not confusion, but this kind of different interpretation, if you like?
Yeah, I think honestly it has done, the community itself has done a spectacular job of keeping it uncoupled. And while that might cause some confusion for some people when they're first starting in this space,
yeah,
I think frankly the reason that people are starting to slowly see adoption of their platforms and become or at least be able to say that they're having some sort of success that's measurable for those who measure, maybe not the banks, but for others who measure, I think part of that is because it hasn't been strictly defined in any way. Whereas if we look at DevOps, for example, what is it, like 15 years, people are still arguing about whether it is a culture or a person, or a practice or a person, and people tried so hard to strictly define it as one or the other that it never actually became one or the other, because it didn't need to be one or the other. I think the spectacular thing about platform engineering, end user and community itself of people who have been involved in this space is specifically that they are far more welcoming to different ideas and needs. And while some people staunchly defend what it is that they're doing or how they're defining their platform or their processes, one thing is that they're defending what they're doing. A totally different thing is whether they jump in with somebody else and tell them that what they're doing is wrong. And I haven't actually seen people do that. Whereas in the DevOps space, people definitely did that and still do, right? Tell each other that they're not always doing it the right way. There's this other way. Whereas in the platform space, I think the community has done a spectacular job of keeping itself open-minded and aware that a very large enterprise like Spotify, Backstage might make sense for them, but for a smaller org that is not Spotify, maybe Backstage isn't the actual portal that they want to use, right?
Yes.
And people have been much more accommodating to those differences, probably from learning from years of complications with DevOps.
And I think, I mean, I that's the impression I got, and it's just kind of, even with the some of the questions and the discussions that we had in the episodes, and actually listening to Saim's first episode and subsequent episodes, I just seem to get that impression. People are coming at it from different directions, and sometimes the views that they have are not the same, they're dissimilar, but they're still talking about the same thing, more or less. So there's a lot more flexibility and fluidity in kind of how you do it and how you approach it. I guess that has, I mean, I'm not going to sort of sit and sort of, discuss the merits of that. Maybe we can do that in a future, discussion or something. But I guess it has its pros and cons. It has advantages and disadvantages to actually do that. Okay, so sorry, Saim, were you going to come in? Go ahead.
Yes, I think the one I think the only add one point is like, I think the DevOps people is like frustrated with one word. Like every organization has their own culture of doing the work in themselves. So that's where a lot of different angle come into the DevOps word, and where we have only 3 pipelines to answer every questions: dev, staging, and production. And every pipeline is one hell of a pipeline these days as well. So I think with a platform engineering, I think it's a more of architectural consideration rather than the tooling centric conversation. I think the only thing I like about the platform engineering and and a lot of on the first episode, I think Brian is from GitLab. He's been the CPO there. Colin Griffin is the CEO from the Chromeware, and David Stingline is doing the platform consultancy. And I think that the one agreeing point on the first debate is like, luckily we have find a domain that get rid of us from the tooling centric conversation to more towards the architectural considerations. So that's the point I like about the platform engineering. And it's add extension point to what Courtney is saying. I think is a community is kind of a welcoming right now to actually allow us to add the words and add the practices into the vocabulary, where the DevOps is kind of a more of the debate, where a lot of organization and the vendor have their own idea, and the people trying to think, how can add my value into it, and kind of a missing conjunction in the community side of a thing. And I think the platform engineering is started from the community angle. So it gives us a more vocabulary than the DevOps in itself, but it's still confusing. It's still confusing that you look at the vocabulary, you say, well, where I should go next after reading all of these words from the platform engineering book.
Yeah. I mean, Colin on Chromeware's sort of website, I was just looking, and I've dropped the link in the chat. They call it cloud native software engineering. So interesting kind of approach to that. A couple of other points I picked up from episode 1. This was, I think, when you kind of went back and sort of historically looking at, sort of the view of DevOps and things like that. One thing again, David Stenglein said was, with DevOps, it was there was a frustration when it didn't actually deliver well. So that was kind of one of the reasons why people started looking at, platform engineering. And then he also said DevOps focused on tools and the operations, not the developers and their code and how they deploy their code. So that was a good distinction. I like that distinction because that kind of separated the concerns that you had between kind of what DevOps was trying to do and what what platform engineering is trying to achieve. And then obviously we've had what's it called, the CNCF platform working group. Is that what it's called? The CNCF platform working group. Okay. And then
which I think does a fantastic job.
Really?
I do. That's
good.
Running a community that is inclusive of ideas and not in a very defined thing other than the concept or the thought of a platform as a North Star is a very difficult thing to do, right? Because everyone who shows up to those meetings has a different idea of what it is that their platform is or is going to be or what they want it to be or what it needs to be. And that's a very difficult thing to keep just the theme of platform engineering as a North Star and have it still have the conversations and the presentations be pertinent that everyone's actually walking away with something that's useful to them.
Right.
And they do a very good job of it. A very, very good job of it, because it is a very difficult task that they have at hand. At the same time, I think there aren't enough people that know about that group. So oftentimes the difficult thing there is that a lot of people don't join in because they don't even know that a group exists.
Yeah.
And so they get stuck with thinking about only the books that are being signed at different events and not so much the thought that there's a whole community of end users and practitioners that are out there with different backgrounds and subsets of skills that they can probably benefit from.
So what does that North Star look like, Courtney? What does that include? I'm curious to know that.
Yeah, so they do have a platform maturity model that they've built out. I think they can still do quite a bit more there, but it at least gives some amount of structure for newcomers or people who aren't really sure where to begin. And I think in the platform space, we constantly see people who are unsure of where to begin. And so the platform maturity model, oftentimes what it does is identify that they already actually have some sort of platform in place. Because a lot of people show up thinking, oh, we need to build a platform, and turns out you already kind of have. Whether it's doing what you need it to do or can be built into or adjust to future necessities is a different question. But the reality is almost everybody already kind of has a platform. And so the maturity model has done a very good job of introducing people to their own platform that they've already built, and helping them kind of start to define it and see where they are in that journey. I think also the other aspect of that space is that they do have a lot of roundtable conversations as well as introduction to tooling. But those introductions to tooling is more, here's an end user of this tool, and here's how they're using it within their platform so that you can see if you have the same use case. That ends up being super valuable for a lot of folks, because if we look at the CNCF landscape, which I try not to, because it's so broad and vast, and oftentimes confusing, the way that they invite sandboxed as well as incubating and graduating projects in is oftentimes somebody from the platform community, an end user, saying, hey, I'm currently using this project to solve this particular use case that might be interesting for others. And so it at least makes sense of the different tools that are on the CNCF landscape, considering it is a CNCF working group. I think that's highly beneficial to a lot of folks that otherwise wouldn't actually have much of an explanation to those tools to understand whether it's a tool that serves a use case that they have or not, without spending a lot of time trying to figure it out themselves.
I mean, it's I think it's. I mean, I think there's a lot kind of to be said on that. The other point that I really picked up on, I'm not sure whether against David Stenglein from episode 1, when I think he was talking about golden paths, and he said that it's and I quote, guardrails that lets you do herding. So I like that, because I think that is an admission of what I've been saying all along. This is what I was saying to Peter, to Mark and Gotham. I told you guys it was herding. So
Herding.
I'm glad David confessed to that.
Yeah, guardrails.
Episode 1 was a bit of a confessional, I think, on various things that I'd been kind of, suspicious about. So maybe David was lucky that he wasn't on my episodes, because I'd have laid into that quite a lot. I think if he'd said, "Did I hear you say herding?" Hang on, that's what I've been saying for the last 12 months, David. Yeah, so that's what I picked up from him, and then I agree in certain other areas, like he mentioned also, I think, regulatory environments, environments that are regulated and so on. Yes, we probably need to do a little bit of that there. But it was the herding and following rules, which was the other thing that he mentioned as well. So my ears perked up when I was rewatching that episode, just to kind of see what nuggets I could pick up. So I certainly picked that up. The other point I think from that was, and this was, I don't know if I asked anybody from my episodes actually on this, but it was good to pick it up on the first episode. Again, David said the first time that really kind of platform engineers talk to or engage with developers is at that sort of change management sort of point. So and the conversation might go along something like, when you're kind of building these things and you're trying to get them on board, which I guess is a good question. What stops you from delivering code? I think was the other question. I think that David suggested as well in the conversation. So those are kind of the main things that I picked up from really episode 1. There's obviously a lot more there, so I suggest for you guys to have a look at the the playlist and go and have a look at the episode. I'll actually try and drop the links for each of the episodes here as well separately. But that was kind of the main things that I picked up from episode 1. And Saim's done a great job, by the way, of time coding, time stamping all of the sort of separate sections on his episodes. I think I've tried to do the same, but I'm not sure I've completed mine yet. But that was interesting. Okay, so shall we move on to episode 2?
Oh, yes, Richard.
Okay, all right. So episode 2. So from DevOps to platform engineering, the enterprise journey. So this was my first episode, and this is kind of the team journey, and really kind of looking at team topologies. So, like I said, I was curious about, early days of and sort of adoption of platform engineering, looking at planning and preparation for sort of moving into this sort of brave new world of platform engineering. How where was the leadership in all of this? I think that was one of the other questions that I asked the guys. Again, I think both Chris and Joel, so Chris Plank and Joel King were my guests on this particular episode, both from NatWest, and the conversation was really around their journey. So did they get any support from leadership? I think they said there was endorsement. That was the kind of the thing, but it was kind of sort of an arm's length, and then go and do this, pick up a small sort of tiger team type of thing, and then go and prove this to us. And then obviously there was organizational impact, definitely, and they spoke about sort of how it impacted them and the teams, of course. And there was also lots of sort of implementation. So once they kind of convinced everybody to look at, okay, how are we going to implement this, and the challenges around that. And when I asked Chris about it, he said, cloud at some point got really slow for them. So it started very kind of fast, and you can try things and fail fast and stuff like that. But then it kind of got slow as things like standards and patterns really started to delay their builds, according to Chris, and this affected then obviously their deployment. So their deployment sort of frequency sort of slowed down as well, and then they started kind of looking, finally kind of moving it into a sort of a platform as a product. That was the kind of aim they were sort of going. So that kind of I think from last year when we did this, 2 years earlier. So it was kind of a relatively early adopters, really, Chris and the team there. So that was interesting to get that from them. And then one of the other areas I was interested in was, where does platform engineering fit in? Where do the teams fit in? What do they do? Do they sit side by side with the SREs, or are they in the Cloud Center of Excellence? Are they next door to the CCOE, or where are they? So Joel was answering this section, and he said that they took PE as a kind of a new function, as a new capability that they wanted to adopt. And there was definitely a massive change. I mean, not initially, of course, because they're kind of, like I said, they're kind of doing POCs and things like that, trying to prove it. But then eventually, it affected massive change in terms of their teams. And something interesting that he mentioned as well, he said, platform engineering is an evolution from DevOps. So, this goes right back to the heart of, is DevOps dead, or is platform engineering replacing DevOps? So this was kind of a way to really answer that, which I thought was good. Now, the bit that you and I think, joked about, Courtney, was when I said that developers are artistes, and I think we were kind of joking a little bit about sort of how they are kind of quirky, and they like their own sort of development tools, and their own sort of development environment, languages, and what have you. And then we come along and we heard them as was said in the first episode by David Stengeline. We actually heard them into this kind of corridor, and maybe have some electric fences on both sides, but they're free to roam around within that corridor, within the confines of the corridor. It's actually, I mean, the analogy is just so like, herding the sheep in a particular direction. It was pretty much what I was thinking, which is why it was, I kind of picked up on an episode on. But anyway, yeah. So episode 2, that was kind of what we talked about. And then you said, I think, that you are always going to have developers asking, why can't I do this or that? So you're always going to have those people who kind of say, why can't I touch it? Why can't I play with that thing and things like that? And then the other one, I think that I can't remember if it was you said it, but I think you said not all developers, or somebody said not all developers want to do infrastructure. I think it was actually Chris who said that. He kind of said, that some people might end up kind of being, SREs or something when they kind of pick up on wanting to do everything or kind of be part of the ops team. So that was interesting as well. And then, we got to the measuring of, how do you measure success? He said, we don't really care about metrics. That was Chris's answer. That was a great answer. Really, really like that. And then I think towards the end, we talked about, obviously there's a lot more to cover in all of these episodes, guys. So, go and have a look at them. But towards the end, we talked about advice for other enterprises. So, Courtney, what was kind of your summary maybe of that, or just generally speaking, what is kind of your summary now? What would be your summary now for things like that?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from the discussion in that particular episode was that for everyone involved, the implementation of platform team or platform engineering had very little to do with an actual technological migration. It was a concept of transforming their actual organizational workflows and how things and information was coming into a group of people to then try to better those workflows and teams. And people really iterated on the fact that, and I love that you bring up the fact that Chris is like, well, we don't measure. Because later on, we did have further conversations in other episodes about, well, the measurement isn't always something that you're tangibly measuring other than adoption. Right? The success of your platform actually has to do with whether people are using it or not. And so I thought that conversation and how completely honest he was about, we're not measuring any like statistical things here. We're more looking at the feedback that people are giving us and whether they feel enabled by what we're doing, and kind of led into other conversations where people were saying, well, actually we're not looking at always how quickly people are doing their job. Rather, we're looking at whether they're actually feeling enabled and adopting the platform we're building. So I loved the fact that everyone really did hone in on the actual thought that platform engineering it's not piecing together a bunch of technical tools. It's actual organizational transformation. Because I think if people start at the tool level, which I think for a lot of folks who end up on a platform team, they are coming from a very technical role, right? And so that's a comfortable place for them to start, is with tooling. But I also think that it's counterintuitive if folks start with tooling instead of actually considering the transformation that they want on the organizational level. Their journey will be far more complex and a lot longer than if they start with what they're hoping to transform first and get that out of the way.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess kind of in the early days, it's hard to really know what that is, and maybe it is fluid as well, depending on who you are as an organization. For NatWest, it's not kind of maybe that essential, but maybe others have a kind of a smaller budget. Maybe it is important. If you're a government body or something, then it might be a little bit more interesting. But the advice for other enterprises I got from Joel, and that was, understand your requirements. Go to events. Listen to people are kind of talking about the topic. Get into communities, so join some communities where possible. Talk to other organizations that might be ahead of you. and doing it, and then kind of look at tooling and stuff like that that's in that space. And then where do you start? You start with an MVP. I think was the advice that Joel gave, which I think that's kind of quite wise. You really want to show the smooth flow, I guess, of doing something like this with platform engineering versus change notices and kind of the manual yada 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 kind of approach that you were doing before maybe. And then interesting, he said this was, I think, this is the charm campaign part of kind of how you do this within your organization. So how do you charm the organization into doing platform engineering, which was communication is key. Tell everybody what you're doing. So kind of, shout that from the highest mountain. Hold hackathons internally. Do presentations if there's like an opportunity, lunchtime thing and that type of stuff. Then do it in that. And then and essentially get the organization excited about it, not just within the IT community, the tech community, within the IT team, but also the rest of the organization. Why is why us doing platform engineering, or we want to do this in IT? Why would this benefit everybody else? Because it's a techie thing. It's not really it's not like an outward facing thing. It's not even anywhere near the outside world, because we are serving an internal customer. That internal customer is another techie part of the IT team, right? So it doesn't really have an outside face. It's not like the website team is talking about, hey, we should use Rust or whatever we should do it with AI from now on or something. No, we should we need a chatbot on our website. Okay, so that, because that's a externally facing, you have to kind of it's a different set of kind of things that you need to try and convince the business with, versus kind of platform engineering, which is kind of very inward looking and just really for the benefit of other techies. So that would be, I can see that would be a harder message to really sell that to the CIO or the CFO is going to maybe sign off on some an extra budget and so on. So that was that was episode 2. Saim, what was in episode 3, which was your golden paths versus developer freedom? Can we have both? That was your baby.
Oh my God, this is one of the most complex, ever confusing topic for some of the people watching us. But I think this is the debate we have with Kat Morris. He's been from Syntasso. I think he reflected on some very good point during the episode as well, because I think it's kind of a similar debate we have within the security umbrella. Like, we tell people, oh, you can do these free flight check to be able to secure your infrastructure, your coding methodologies for a lot of the regulatory setup. But on the other side of the angle is that sometimes you're slowing the developer frequency and the feature development itself. So not kind of a same analogy to draw here, but it's a kind of a different mindset on that for freedom is that. So some people try to adopt, like they say, you have to have the golden paths for the developers, but then you might actually been kind of restricted with the developer freedom. And sometimes you have to provide some sort of the developer freedom, but you bypassing the golden path in itself. So it's a kind of a very, very, very enterprisey use case in here as well, because a lot of the organizations where you need to find a very right set of balance for these kind of a consideration. Let's say you live in an organization where you said once again, it's a coding example, but we try to draw a lines here. Like, let's say you have a working organization where you say every time you put in images into the container registry, they have to be signed. They have to be your own registry where you have to be taking care of the infrastructure requirement. But in order to build that registry, you need to build up some sort of pre-flight checks, and they can't be having your own primary repository with these amount of checks to be enabled.
Yeah.
Comparison to the cloud registry, you don't need to worry about anything. Put your images there and you're off to go. Where the developers see as a instant move to the container, where when you focus them to move into the registry that's your own, where they need permission, they need to do these 2-3 different steps in order to provide that. So I think
Yeah.
when we're done with an episode, I think with the one question, I think there's a 2-3 different angle to it as well. But I think right now as we're speaking, I think there's one of the companies, it draws some more lines into it. Like, I think the bricks. I think yes, the Nicky Ward, when I'm speaking to them, he's talking about rather than trying out for the golden parts, let's do for the golden bricks in itself, and that's
Yeah.
another topic in itself. So I kind of make it a more suspensey here, because I already covered that episode on my YouTube channel with
Right.
Nicky Parts and Nicky Wars, and he does a very good job explaining both of these, the difference between golden paths versus golden bricks.
Yeah, that was, I think, it was interesting. I think that the episode kind of focused, a lot more. I think this is kind of, this is third episode, right? So we were now deep in the woods of kind of platform engineering, and kind of one of those American type of documentaries or whatever that you pick up on TikTok, where people leave their car on the side of the road and then they go into a deep forest or something, and then hopefully they find their way out. But it was kind of deep into that sort of platform engineering sort of forest. So I think it was good though that was explored, and that was kind of really what I wanted to hear. And there was a lot covered in I think in that episode. Was there anything else, Saim, or you, Courtney, that you recollect from episode 3 that kind of stood out for you from the guests?
I think my biggest takeaway was the way they all very much insisted on the golden path is much more about standardizing repetitive work. You shouldn't be sitting there trying to innovate a whole bunch of things. Let's look at basic tasks that just need to get done and standardize those, and make that something that is governed and a bit more structured, instead of having people all over the place doing the boring things different ways. Standardize a way for them to do the boring things or automate the boring things so that they can then spend some of their time feeling empowered to innovate in other ways.
Yeah.
That was, I think, because this is a topic that is very deep into the platform practice space.
Yeah.
The way people explained it during that episode of just very clearly automate the boring stuff.
Right. Yes.
Was at least for me one of the most clear times that I've actually heard people discuss it. Right.
Yes.
It wasn't a big debate around networking policies and policy as code for other things, and where are we going to restrict people and where are we not going to restrict them. Literally figure out what the boring tasks are that nobody really wants to do, and they're all doing them in different ways.
Yes.
And standardize and govern that. Once you do that, that was, and for me, all of a sudden it was so that's the cognitive load.
Right. Yes.
That's the actual cognitive load that is being lifted by.
It's the automation stuff. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the arguments maybe on that, and I heard this somewhere else actually quite recently, was, well, if it's just automation, then just do automation. Why would you want to do platform engineering? So what would be your answer to that?
I don't think automation. I mean, people have been trying to automate things since DevOps.
Yeah. I mean, could it be? So can we argue, kind of playing devil's advocate with that? Could we say scale, would not it would not work if it was a huge scale that you had to do,
I
and then you had to the automation that we would normally do is okay for kind of the smaller stuff, but if we're talking at that scale, then we need those standards, and then we need to bring in some
Yeah.
discipline, and therefore a framework, and therefore platform engineering would work
I
better.
think part of it is definitely scale, but I think the other part that oftentimes we don't consider should carry a lot more weight when we're thinking about this is asking people what the boring tasks are that they want to get off their plate. That
Yeah.
is actually the power of platform engineering, right? One thing is that I, on the outside looking in and saying, oh, let's automate these things because they
Yeah.
seem simple enough to automate.
Yeah.
The actual process of platform engineering is saying to a team, okay, let's get a general consensus on the things that are boring tasks for you and see how we can automate them across the board.
Sure. Sure.
I think is a totally different approach than just somebody looking at a process and saying, well, I think these things can be automated. I think that is the fundamental difference is the human factor of apparently you are servicing a team. And so you're asking them, hey, what do you want in this product? What do you want automated out of your workflow?
Yes.
So that we can do that in a standardized way for everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. And would you also agree? And I think this is kind of bordering on episode 3 as well. Would you agree that that line where kind of developers are on this side and PE is kind of on the other side is not a straight line down? It's kind of almost a meandering line in terms of those things that you're saying. This can be automated. This we can take away from you as a burden, as a cognitive loads kind of offloading. And it's not a kind of a straight line down in terms of those services, activities, and whatever you want to call them. It's more of a, here we do a lot more, but here we take less from you.
Absolutely. Like also, I think it's what do you want to voluntarily give up?
Yes.
It's a totally different mindset for the people that are having to use your platform is when you say, what are the things that you voluntarily want me to take off of your plate? Than saying, I've decided that these tasks are now no longer yours, right? One is a lot more authoritarian and the other one is a lot more collaborative. And so, especially when you look at people who are talking about developer experience or just general overall DORA metrics and where that productivity comes from. I think that is probably oftentimes where the difference in productivity comes from in comparison to previous DevOps practices, is that it is a much more collaborative. You tell me as a group what it is that is a boring task that's taking up a lot of your time, and let me see how I can automate it. Is a totally different thing than I've decided that this task isn't important, because the viewpoint on that might be totally different for a team than it is for the person managing them.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually where the difference in keeping your team happy, having them not burn out as quickly, and becoming far more productive actually starts to weigh in when people do that part of it, that part of platform engineering in a more effective way.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. So shall we move on to the 4th episode? So this was my episode. This was a platform as a product. What happens when engineers become product managers? Now, interesting, when we were, I think, just offline, which I added it in as part of the intro to the video, Mark Peters was trying to. So Mark Peters and Mike Mead were our guests on this one. And Mark was trying to come up with an analogy for not being able to sprinkle enough, or not being able to sprinkle, or you can't sprinkle a little platform on it, platform engineering on it. You have to kind of take the whole shot or something. But he couldn't figure out how to kind of connect that with the point he was trying to make. But it was hilarious to get that. So I did include that in the intro, so it was quite funny. So this one we focused more, I think, on the shift to platform as a product, actually going and treating what we're doing and what we're delivering as a product. To be honest with you, I'm skeptical of that, not as in what we're trying to do, but in terms of the kind of the scale of that, the idea of treating this whole, this thing as a product. I don't really see, doing platform engineering as, as involved as actually producing a product. And certainly there's aspects of it which platform engineering is not involved in. So for example, you don't sell the product, you sell it internally, but you've already, by the time you're building it as a product, you've already convinced the folks that you're going to do this. So it's not really a sale as such. So I think the analogy of this is a product, this is a vacuum cleaner or some, a lawnmower or something, doesn't really work. I think it's as close as you can maybe get, but it doesn't, all the aspects of, of how you would do it, how you do an actual product out there in the world. You go and buy, from a supermarket or something. I think that is a lot more complex, especially today in kind of the, in this sort of, what I was going to say was the competitive landscape. There is no competition when you do a platform, when you do platform engineering in a company. Your previous competition, you're erasing them, which was the old sort of DevOps, the classical DevOps approach. And beyond that, there is no competition. So there is the potential, actually, if you take that sort of train of thought a little bit further out, there's the potential of you getting lazy because you're now the king of kind of, how you do platforms, and you're treating it as a product and so on. But hey, Mr. Developer, you now get to do what I tell you to do because this we're dictating. Remember, we are herding you now. Yeah. So I think it doesn't really, as an analogy or as a kind of way to describe it, I can appreciate the title and some elements, yes, are there. So like, making the product and, convincing people with it and stuff like that. But you're not advertising it really to the outside world. You're not selling it necessarily. And you're most certainly not doing any, any of the kind of things that that a full product does. Yes, there's certain elements that work, but I don't think the whole sort of analogy really works for that. So this is one of the other places where I'd kind of really push back on platform engineers. Say, come on, guys, just build the damn things, okay? Let's not, you can call them a product if you like, but you're not convincing me with that. It's not really a fully fledged type of product that you put out there, especially, as I said, with the competing. There's nobody competing with you.
Absolutely have to agree on that part, because there's no one competing with you except for yourself. Yeah. And if on top of it, you're not even measuring your own progress in some way, it becomes very difficult to say that you're actually building a product and taking it to your market is a much more complex process. Yeah. I do think that there are certain components that people who are doing platform engineering will absolutely do employ, from the concept of product building and creation, and I think there are other aspects that they could probably do a bit more of. For example, you do kind of have to take your platform to market. That absolutely entails doing product marketing and having end user cases that people can learn from, and tutorials so that they can get hands-on with the platform itself and understand how it's empowering them and why they should use it. Those things should definitely be created and monitored and measured. I do think that there are certain aspects of how many teams is your platform actually meant to service, and how many of those teams have you put into the funnel, and where is that journey ending for them in that funnel. These are all concepts about taking something to market that people are actually going to make a decision whether they're going to buy it or not, that you would actually do. And I think a lot of that is still very much lacking. And I think the other thing that oftentimes people underestimate, and I do think it's just a certain amount of disconnection from the reality, is you can create a fantastic product. You can create fantastic documentation. You can do all kinds of things, but the concept of breaking through the noise so that people know about it and are aware of it is a totally different thing. And I think most platform teams could highly benefit from certain DevRel practices. Growing awareness around what it is that you're building and getting active feedback during demos and tutorials about that product to then take it back to the team that's building it and shorten that feedback loop a bit. Because so often what you do hear people talking about is, okay, so they identified the transformation they want to make in their organization, and they've ID'd some tools that they already have in their platform and where there are gaps in their tech stack. And they do all of that work, and then they have this very polished thing sitting there, or they've gone ahead and invested in a platform as a service tool and company, but nobody is actually using it and leveraging it. And so much of that has to do with, you can build a product. It doesn't mean anybody is going to buy it or use it. And to me, that very much is the contrast of when people are talking about platform as a product. They're building the product, but that entails an entire go-to-market strategy that oftentimes people are not doing. And until you get to a maturity point that you understand, so you built the product, but now you need to take that to your market and you need to shorten those feedback loops. And then there's a customer success journey, right? Now people have bought in, but they've bought in. And so those initial problems are solved, but now you need to upsell, which means you need to create more features in your product, right? That's a whole executive sales process and go-to-market strategy that if you're building a product, you're doing, and if you're building a platform, you're probably not there yet.
Yeah, I'm just, I mean, for me, I think it's just I guess it's the closest you can get. It's not quite 100% in terms of the actual definition of a product, because one of the other things that you're missing, like I said, apart from actually selling it to the outside world, which is really what other vendors would have to do, like you guys at Nomata having to sell the enterprise version of of Kaivedo and things like that, and so do others sell their Linux or whatever it is that they're selling, right? Platform engineering, whatever they produce, whether it's an IDP or whatever they call it, they don't really do that. They sell it internally, yes, but that's a different ball game, as they say, right? It's not the same thing. And then the other part of it is, yes, you do iterate, and there's a roadmap and so on that you do kind of produce. And actually, episode 4 we talked about roadmap and governance and prioritization of that bucket of features and things like that. But what you're not doing, and yes, you can take feedback on that, from developers and whoever your customer, you've decided your customer is. The thing that you don't do in platform engineering is take in complaints. So you take in feedback, but not complaints. Or at least I don't see. I mean, the two are different things. One is kind of a nice it would be really nice if we could do this in the next version. And then the other one's, this damn thing is not working. I need you to fix it, or whatever. I'm just so frustrated as a developer. I don't, you've restricted me so much. I don't want to do this kind of thing. And then the developer's kind of in that situation of, well, that everybody's going that direction. I don't think I want to go in that direction. So I'm going to leave this company and go somewhere else. Yeah, which I know has happened, because I've spoken to people who have actually done that. So because of this kind of herding, that's kind of come through from things like DevOps and specifically platform engineering. But yeah, I'm not kind of 100%, it's a platform as a, do platform as a product. It's just not on the same scale for me. It's not on the same sort of stature, really. But the rest of it, we did talk about kind of the product mentality. That was an interesting, I think, thing that with Mike contributing to aspects of that. We talked about roadmap, as I said. I think Mark talked about the metrics and adoption and return on investment. I think I was pressing him on return on investment in regards to that, and he did kind of, I think, say that certain things are there. But again, he was a little bit like what Chris was saying, kind of don't pressure yourself in that sort of regard first, or trying to get the thing working first and convince people before you kind of bring in those things which might be restrictive. And I do agree with that from that perspective. And then the other one was really skills and roles and organizational change, which we touched on in episode 2, but I kind of wanted to go a little bit deeper. So again, Mike contributes, I think, to that. And then the other one in terms of the ecosystem, kind of building the ecosystem, it was whether to buy it or build it yourself. So buy versus build of the ecosystem. So that was kind of again, we explored that. I think the guys probably felt that it was depends on kind of your scenario, your situation, and the size of your organization, the size of the developer team, and things like that. So that was there. And then Mark, I think, mentioned a book by, is it Mick Kirsten? Somebody like that. So we'll try and maybe find some links for that. I've not actually asked Mark about that, but he said it was a really good kind of DevOps sort of book. And, he was kind of defining it as being, sort of how you would really do good DevOps, and measuring your, improvements one at a time, I think was kind of the, it's kind of an iterative, slower sort of approach, but you kind of eventually get there. And then Mike, I think, talked about we talked a little bit more about platform as a product, and he said it was about bringing product thinking to the engineering discipline. Now that I agree with. I think that's a little bit better in terms of how you term it. Not just kind of say, well, you treat it as a product. Well, no, just bring in some of the thinking, and some of it might be not in the same sequence. So it's not as linear or not in the same linear fashion as a product, as an actual product, out there in the market, because you do have to do your marketing and selling maybe earlier on to actually convince people. And that's different from the research that you do for a product. Is this actually a good thing to produce? Shall we go and make a product like this, design and build and test and whatever? That's different. So this actually is the kind of almost the selling and the marketing being brought on much earlier on to convince the board and to convince the CIO maybe, or CTO, or whatever it is that whoever you're trying to pitch to. So that was, again, I think, interesting. And and I guess people, if they kind of want to go in that direction, or if this is kind of a conversation that you're having in your CCOE, then this is the sort of thing that you need to think about. Where do we start? Because you could maybe put the wrong foot forward, first, and that could screw things up for you, and people will not be convinced, going beyond that. But he talked about, product kind of thinking in this sort of, engineering discipline, a shift in thinking. So that kind of changes the mindset. And then he said something about the backlog becoming your roadmap as well, which I picked up on. So that was interesting that he said, whatever you end up having in your backlog kind of makes up your roadmap eventually. So yeah, that was interesting. And then Mark said, he said, life is easier when you have metrics, when you do metrics and ROI measurements. So I guess I think he meant that as a, well, yeah, I think you were kind of skeptical of that, Courtney, because when I was reviewing the video, I think your reaction was like, really? Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Kind of, meme came in, I think, in your mind at that point. So that was interesting. But that was from Mark. I did pick up on that from Mark. What was your kind of any other sort of pickups from you on episode 4?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been quite skeptical of the whole platform as a product approach to things.
Mm-hmm.
But a huge part of that is because so many folks who are in the platform engineering space have very, very little experience on the product and go-to-market side of things. And so I think it's almost counterintuitive for them to try to be doing something that requires a totally different skill set than what they've developed. That said, I am a big believer that the best platform engineers actually come from QA, and that
Oh,
part of
really? Okay.
I'm a big believer of
I
this.
don't think I've ever heard that.
I don't know if other people believe this or not. I personally believe the best platform engineers actually come from a QA background, and
Interesting.
the reason I believe that is twofold. One, because a lot of folks in QA had some sort of previous life before tech.
That's true. That's
Some
true.
context around how other processes work in the world, which gives them a unique vantage point when looking at things from a product, because they've probably sold or offered different types of products.
Mm.
Two, because the actual process of QA is oftentimes selling people on what you've discovered and bridging the gap
Yeah.
between two very siloed teams. And in order to do that, your communication skills have to be quite developed, as well as your human soft skills to do a good job of that. And three, because they are used to listening to everyone's complaint comes at them.
Right.
And they're oftentimes the ones who are finding problems, having to communicate them, or taking problems back to somebody and having to communicate that. And so I personally find them to be quite exceptional as platform engineers. Good examples of that are Abhi Bangsar. She comes from a QA background. Atul Priya Sharma, his first roles in tech were also in QA, and he is one of the leaders of the platform working group and does an exceptional job at keeping things balanced there.
Yeah.
Arati Pano, she works for SAP and also moved into their platform department from a very highly skilled QA background. So I think there are a lot of examples, at least that I've come across out in the world, that do an exceptional job as QA folks.
Right.
But mostly because they have a much better vantage point of the concept of a product and selling to people and growing awareness and adoption and listening to customer feedback, because that is kind of the role of a QA person. So that I've always been skeptical of the platform as a product move, but mostly because I think a lot of people get stuck having to just take the basic concepts of product development and try to make it kind of pigeonhole it into what they actually do. Whereas if they had a bit more of a global scope about it, it would probably be easier for them.
Right. Indeed. Okay. Let's I mean, I think it was an interesting episode. We focused on more the product thing, and I think it was good to explore that. I think that's where I got the idea of, I think there's elements of it, but not everything as a product would be, and certainly not in that kind of linear sort of approach, not in the same sequence anyway, as actually fully fledged product in the world. And certainly certain aspects, like I said, of things like sort of complaints and competition doesn't exist in platform engineering world. Same episode 5, platform engineering futures, the role of Gen AI and platform observability. What have you got to say about
that? Absolutely. I have the mouthful of the topic, Richard.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So I think, what was your feelings about doing episode 5?
I think we have some very good guests. The one thing is really, we have a vendor and the enterprise guest on the same episode. We have Mahir Vora, who is a senior distinguished engineer at Capital One, and Ravi Lakman, a head of product education at Harness. So we bring those people together. So that's one part of the thing. Like, we did a job of adding those people in the one episode as well. So I think I think they have different sort of opinion. I think that Ravi was said was a very one good thing. Don't go to the jail. Do not done things in the platform that you end up in the jail. So he was joking.
Okay.
Those of the concept as well. So I think Mahir.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Just reminded me, we're doing analogies in episode 6, which we might get to, but the the one that we didn't maybe pick up on, and it's interesting about the herding, is the frog in the boiling water sort of thing, right? So if you kind of drop a frog in boiling water, it's going to try and jump out, but if you slowly increase the temperature, it's not going to realize until it's too late. So I think that's what developers are experiencing. They're the frog in the slowly increasing hot water.
Absolutely. So I think on the episode they have a different sort of opinion. I think Mahir is more inclined towards like what are the practicing he's seeing. I think the one thing is, if we heard from the episode, is like both are agreeing on the concept that the observability need to be rethinking around the Gen AI spectrum, and Ravi was mentioning at Harness they've been developing some solution around observability around that as well. So what the Mahir is explaining around some of the challenging he has been seeing on the Capital One is a depicting case with the Ravi is explaining some of those capabilities have been adding in the Harness platform. So this means that the feedback loop within some stuff been happening in the enterprise, and the vendor sees those challenging, adding those in the platform. So that's a synergy. That's a very good sign of everybody watching it, that the Gen AI observability need to be rethinking on a broader spectrum with the AI. I think I asked question on the. I think I asked a different question on the episode as well. But I think it's a good. Mahir is explaining some of the best practices. I think 2-3, because I want to make sure add some of the surprises so people can really watch out the episode as well, Richard. But I think 1-2 use cases that the Mahir mentioned on the Capital One is really, really worth checking that out. I think he's explained like how you were thinking around the product thinking mindset, and he is explaining on Capital One how this thinking actually add values into the Capital One. I think that there's a 2 very good use cases for that as well. And Ravi, like he's always been on the product education side of the things. He's head on the platform, so he's more inclined. How do you onboard people into the newer set of capabilities? So he talking about those spectrum aloud. Like, we have added these capabilities in the platform. How do you educate people that those kind of capabilities exist in the platform? Because discoverability is one of the pain point when people started thinking about treat your platform as a product. On the anti-spectrum to that, how do people discover these functionalities exist in the platform? Because I work in some of the Kubernetes platform, and there's amount of capabilities exist in the platform, but nobody knows that there's capability in the platform. There's not documented anywhere. The people something trying out, added the feature on the fly, and now nobody discovered that kind of functionality. So the Ravi is actually inclined toward the tooling. Like how do people discover those kind of capabilities? So he saw like Gen AI can be one of the angle, so people can discover thing in the platform as well. Like you can have the integration point. People talk with the platform and the platform answer with the capabilities it has, and you can design on that platform as well. So there are some very good debates. So I really like the 5th part of episode because Richard, we have been speaking aloud Gen AI observability a lot. Sometimes on the channel, on the wisdom episode, on the cloud state of play, and sometime on the off topic as well. So we speak about a lot about that. So there are some very good debate on the table as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys went into lots of. I mean, you did it in like an hour. I wish I could stick to 1 hour on my one. So all the episodes I think I've done, apart from maybe the first one, kind of all went over an hour because we just had so much to cover. and so much to talk about. But I think you kind of, focused or kind of went around the things like, sort of, the Gen AI sort of discussion. I think there was a point that I really liked, which was the rapid prototyping with AI using Gen AI, which I thought was a good area to explore. I think you guys spent a few minutes on that.
Yes.
And then also migration acceleration. So things like how agents really help with large refactoring and modernization of applications. Now, I'm seeing a lot more of this actually come through both at T-Systems. We're doing that, but also just in the public as well. There's different way. The people are coming at it from different angles, but nevertheless, it's still kind of it definitely is a sort of an area that you're looking at. And then an interesting thing I think that you guys mentioned that sort of around the 45-minute mark, which I noted down, was judgment can't be fully automated, and kind of this is where non-deterministic systems, kind of agentic systems, have limits in terms of what they can do. So that was interesting. I think that you guys picked up on that. That was an interesting conversation point that you picked up on that.
Richard, just one point on the rapid prototyping as well, because I think one of the live stream we did, we met with one of the vendor, because this says like now the sales team or the product team or the marketing team, they can run demos as well with the process of AI. So you have let's say previously the engine, every time you do some sort of marketing, the marketing team tell to the engineering team, let's schedule a meeting, and then you run the demos for your customer. And sometimes customer don't have time. They never get to another email. They want to see something on the fly. So we while we were doing some of the live stream, I don't know what the event we actually were live streaming, but that's where the case spun up again, the rapid prototyping. With the advent of the AI systems, you can run very offshoot demos for you. Yeah, like salespeople can run demos, the marketing team can run the demos. So the engineering can be offloaded to some other time. Sometimes the customer comes and you have a very small amount of time, a very niche time you have. You can run the demos on the flight there. So that was a very good discussion. And Ravi is saying that on the episode that they have been inclining those kind of capabilities in the harness platform. And that's it is surprising to me as well. Like now we might be seeing in the near future more of these trends going forward.
Yeah, indeed. And the other point that you, there was a lot more on Gen AI that you've covered. So guys, go and watch the 5th episode. I think there's a lot about, if you're sort of interested in Gen AI, how that's going to kind of affect things for you, whether you're doing DevOps or platform engineering. I think is, this episode 5 really covered it quite a lot. There was a Gen AI for kind of knowledge discovery and agentic workflows. So that was quite an interesting, I think, area that you explored. And then the other one was, where we go, observability that takes action. So automation versus human judgment. Now, we'll not go into too much detail on that because we might actually talk about that at the end of this particular live stream. But that was another area I think that you explored, and then you went on to things like guardrails and accountability for agents and agentic systems and things like that. So this was actually interesting. The other point is that Mihir is works for an enterprise, and Ravi is from a vendor space. So I think this was the first time when we actually mixed the two. Although I guess episode 6 was kind of similar as well, but this was proper enterprise and kind of vendor space sort of coming together. So I exactly found the conversation when I watched it. I remember this from the first time I watched it, and it's even more so this the subsequent times I've watched it. That we're coming at it from different angles. So Mihir was kind of very much from his experience, as you said, Saim, and Ravi was kind of more from a broader sort of technology and sort of solutions and certainly what Harness is doing on those things like Gen AI and AI agents and so on.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of the series in itself. I think the 5th and 6th episode we mix enterprise with the vendors. It's tough, but we did it.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so let's move on to the final episode. So this was episode six, platform engineering, state of play. So yeah, we looked at kind of. So I had Gautam Palapa and Jennifer Riggins, who were my guests for that. So shout out to them. And we kind of really, we were looking at the scene that we're trying to set. Really was kind of looking at the recent developments in platform engineering space, and also kind of projecting this into the future as well. So we looked at, I think we conceded that platform engineering has won the organizational debate. So in terms of how you do development, how you do SRE, how you do platform engineering, or DevOps, call it that, pretty much platform engineering is kind of, has kind of won that sort of thing. And yeah, whereas people back in maybe 23, 24 were kind of asking, what is platform engineering? Isn't it just DevOps and things like that? That's kind of moved away really in terms of a discussion point. So it's now moved on to, we talked about kind of it moving on to adoption, because like we said, not everybody's doing it, or some people are doing it but not calling it that, but also to optimization for those who are already doing it, like the likes of NatWest and what have you, but also the maturity of it itself as a movement, as a framework, if you like, or as a discipline. So yeah, and then yeah, and I think I spoke to a few people at KubeCon Amsterdam earlier this year, and I think that kind of discussion, I got the impression that that debate has largely been settled. And again, I met with Colin Griffin at KubeCon Amsterdam, and he basically, I think, agreed that platform engineering is now just, quote unquote, getting on with the job. So it's kind of it's established. It's now just getting on with the job on that. So that was, I think, the conclusion that I got from Colin at the at KubeCon when I bumped into him there. And then the kind of the conversation kind of went on to things like stuff. The proof for that, the proof is kind of things like Platform Engineering Day, being a kind of a major fixture of things like KubeCon, for example. And we're not kind of we've shifted away from asking, as I said, what is platform engineering or why platform engineering, to how do we build effective platforms? How do we measure platform success? How do we support AI workloads? And this was actually a big spike that came up in terms of, okay, we're now going to have to take requests not just from humans, but potentially AI agents as well as platform engineers. So that's going to be part of the, that bucket list of or back catalog that we have to, look at and add into our roadmap, as we mentioned earlier. So I think both Jennifer and sort of Gautam agreed with that, and then the debate has kind of largely been settled in the last sort of 12 months, 18 months or so. Courtney, what was your take on that? Did you kind of pick up on those sort of discussion points with Gautam and Jennifer as well?
Yeah, I love the combination of the two of them in that discussion. Also, the title was so fitting by the time we got done, the whole at play, and that's exactly what they did was played back and forth with so
many we did, we had some good fun with the analogies and stories.
Yeah, the analogies were fantastic. But very fitting and very real about what's actually going on. I really enjoyed the forward thinking thought of not only are people going to be getting having to service requests from agents, but maybe requests from totally different departments and people that aren't necessarily technologically backgrounded. Like after I left that discussion, I thought to myself, imagine the platform team getting a ticket to service the Lovable app from the sales team. What do you do with that? Right, because now all of a sudden everybody's vibe coding agents. Everybody's become a developer, and
absolutely.
And where does that actually extend for platform engineering? So I think my biggest takeaway from the takeaway session was kind of that platform engineering is becoming less of just an engineering discipline and much more of a business-oriented discipline as AI becomes more prominent in this space. AI is definitely changing the landscape of things for everyone, but also with its arrival, it's making platform engineering a lot more important than what it was before. This is not just something that, oh, well, people might be doing this and trying to figure it out. It now becomes a situation where there should probably be some amount of structure and enablement that's built in because the concept of the expansion that's going to happen in businesses and having people who are building a platform to make that possible, but also make it secure and governable and repeatable and herd all of the people that are now involved in all of the different developments that are coming, I think is a fascinating concept.
Yes, and funnily you should mention tickets, because I was asked by Monday.com to host one of their executive dinners in London, and Monday.com were announcing, or they were talking about Monday Service, which is their sort of ticketing and ITSM sort of solution. That's, I guess, competing with the likes of ServiceNow. And they said specifically, now everybody can raise a ticket, whether you're in finance, whether you're in legal, whether you're in HR or whatever. So that goes exactly back to what you just said, Courtney, about everybody becoming a developer. Thanks to Monday.com and Lovable. There you go.
Lovable and everything else. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to think that, I mean, you're going to have marketing folks that have their agents and have their different business needs, and how do you enable those folks to build them in a much more feasible way? Or the sales team, you've got an SDR that has different messages they want to send out. They've automated that with an agent, and they have no idea what a software development lifecycle looks like, let alone what a security issue is, or a CVE even is.
Exactly.
This now takes on a totally different importance among orgs that are saying they want to be AI first, right? We want to be AI native, and we want to be AI first, and that's fantastic, don't we all? But also, what does that entail for people, and the role that platform engineers are going to play in that? I think it's fascinating and super exciting times for them.
Well, I would say this is a perfect time to have a little bit of governance. So Kai Werner, I think it will be perfect to come into that situation.
Yes, yes, people should
absolutely perfect for it.
Probably be governing a lot of things at admission. As much as you.
That's the whole point. Governance at scale.
Governance at scale. You should be doing it as much as humanly possible. As things move into.
Let's go for it. Why not? Yeah.
Richard, we should add Kai Werner to our YouTube channel as well, because there are some policies we need to follow as well.
Policies that need to be put into place. But
absolutely.
I've just been, I think it's fantastic that you brought up observability earlier, because this is now also becoming something that's far more important. Before we were just observing everything, just observe it without any really concept around why am I observing this? What am I looking for? This now becomes more of what are observing friction points. So I was just giving a talk with my colleague Diana Torea from Victoria Metrics about people leveraging Kyverno for AI deployments and different infrastructure needs that are starting to happen. But then the necessity of actually observing those policies to find where your friction points are,
Right.
and whether people are following things appropriately or not, and why you should be observing specific things, because up until now, it's just kind of been, oh, observability is super fun. I can see everything. But as these security issues start to grow and more people start to form part of our platforms and pipelines, I think defining what it is that people are observing becomes a lot more important.
Yeah, yeah. We covered also things like observability, undergoing a fundamental shift. So we've talked about this before. I've covered this, by the way, guys, on the Cloud Therapist channel a number of times in the past. We did some stuff on it last year. Check out some of the Cloud State of Play and some of the unfiltered episodes around that, and also in the projections episode for Cloud State of Play from January of this year as well. So we won't kind of go into the details of that, but that was certainly one of the things that we talked about, and kind of we looked at how AI is sort of coming into that space, which areas is going to affect. We also looked at the sort of AI now driving platform requirements. So this is kind of, I think, where the point about sort of having to take requests from AI agents as well as humans sort of going forward. But then the other point I think that was really interesting was around, I think I talked to, I think I spoke to Gotham in regards to that, where we said that platform teams are having to think about not just kind of the usual things when it comes to AI, things like GPUs, inference, agent governance, which we just mentioned, AI security, cost management, so things like token economics, and I think at the time the Linux Foundation's announcement to launch, intend to launch the Tokenomics Foundation was, I think, fairly new. So we mentioned that as well.
Are you happy with the name, Richard?
Sorry?
Are you happy with the name?
I don't really care. I think token economics is not going to last very long. It's going to be my predictions are going to be a flash in the pan, because what's happening.
It's tough to pronounce.
Tokenomics. Yeah. Yeah, that does take a bit of just call it token economics. Because this I think we discussed this. I've discussed it in one of the recent Cloud State of Play episodes, because there's other factors that are coming in from the technology side that might mitigate token economics. So things like, for example, there was an open source project that actually compresses your input before it's actually, so it sits between your prompt and the model, and it actually compresses your input and it compresses the output. So that reduces the number of tokens that your model needs to deal with. And then the other one was around how many tokens per second, or whatever the frequency measurement was, does your GPU do today versus the next model from the likes of NVIDIA and others as well. It wasn't that. It was the previous model of the GPU from NVIDIA with the kind of, I can't remember the code names, Blackwell and whatever they're called. I can't remember, but I do have all the details. I've got all the receipts for all of this in one of the Class State of Play episodes. And that was something like, it was costing us $4.50, or I say £4 in English money. It was costing us £4 with the previous generation of GPU, and now with the current one, it's cost us like 20 pence, which is like 20 cents, per token or something, or per, like I said, frequent, measure of time or frequency that was being done. So per second, or whatever the measurement was. So those two things are coming in, and I think more people are going to adopt those because of the necessity of we can't be spending the annual capacity or the annual the capacity that we have for tokens, our annual budget for tokens in the first 3 months, in the first quarter of the year, which has happened to a few people, including the likes of I think it was AWS or somebody else who experienced that recently. So and that's certainly been the case to some companies, let's say, that are very close to me as well. They've experienced the same thing.
I feel like we're just watching history repeat itself.
Yeah.
If we think back to a handful of years ago, at least when I first got started in the cloud native space, everybody was raving about an article that went out where there was a company that had a $1 million cloud expense, and all of a sudden cube cost and a bunch of other things started to pop up, and people started to use things like policies to manage their CPUs, and
yes,
right, and people became far more aware. It stopped being, this has been a struggle to get something deployed, and now look at our new toy, to all of a sudden being like, oh, there's an actual expense to this, and we're just kind of watching the same thing happen with AI usage, just at a much faster pace. Right?
Yes,
it's not taking 5 years for adoption to happen, and then people are all of a sudden having these massive bills. So it's taking a handful of months, and all of a sudden this is happening. And
which we touched on, I think, in episode 6 as well. We talked about, I think I was saying, next 12 months or something. I think Jennifer said, you mean next 2 months? She was quite right. So I think she was quite right in terms of the acceleration and frequency. So so that was certainly part of it. And it was an interesting, I think, conversation around that, sort of how AI kind of fits into everything. And then I think the other really major one that I want to mention, I mean, we talked about sort of developer experience, becoming a KPI, a primary KPI. I think not everybody agreed with that, which is fine. That was kind of, throw it out there and let's see what happens, who's going to sort of, take a bite at that. But the other one was, platform engineering becoming, AI augmented. So it itself, not just serving sort of agents or policying agents and things like that, but it itself in terms of its sort of operations and creation, including including AI. And I think I asked Gotham whether it was a good thing, and he was, I think, somewhere in between. It's kind of, it depends. Was the response I think that he gave. And the question I think for Jennifer was kind of around, well, how much will there be left for platform engineering teams to actually do then, if everything's kind of presented and done, to if it's presented to developers and done at the touch of a button, or it's through a prompt, or something like that. So I think I'm kind of interested in knowing a little bit more, or seeing how that was going to pan out in the future. Do we give the developers a prompt of our platform engineering, of our IDP, right? And then they say, well, I want this. And then the IDP agent says, oh, I think you need this bit and this bit and that bit. And it kind of puts them all and goes, there you go. I think that's what you need. It kind of gives you that. So something that wasn't necessarily a button that you can press on straight away, that the dev could press on straight away, but certainly the agent could put it together for them. So even if it didn't exist, the agent could maybe create it within the consistency of and the policy of the IDP, of what the platform engineering team has dictated. So you're kind of giving some of that freedom back again to the developer, but not quite that kind of full freedom that they enjoyed before. But it's better than nothing. Sorry, Saim, go ahead.
Yes, I'm saying, like, we are, as we mentioning offline all the time, are we heading towards the AI control plane?
Well, funny you should mention that, because I've got a bunch of receipts now for AI control planes, believe it or not. AI agent control planes. Everybody is talking about those. So that's certainly happening. Now, as I expressed to you before, I'm not happy with it being just for AI. Why should it be just for AI? Why can't we have a control plane, for other things as well. So it's certainly happening. And I think actually AWS recently, let me copy this in for you. AWS open sourced a project called Loom. So that's LOOM. And that is essentially doing this type of stuff for control planes and stuff like that. It's an open source control plane for AI agents. There you go. So
there's more confusing abbreviation coming up, Richard. Internal AI control plane developer platform.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce those?
It's a good
What
question.
will be the abbreviation for that?
But I mean, things like this are, the control plane is definitely there, and I think that is coming through. Okay, so yes, I think those were kind of the main points, really. I mean, we went on to kind of talking about, we did mention, AI agents becoming the new consumers of platforms, and the last one that I think we talked about was the build versus buy. It's not a build versus buy; it's a build versus assemble. And I guess this kind of lends itself towards, convergence of some of these things, whether it's certain tooling that they're using, or they're kind of maybe, as I said, it's not exactly what the platform engineers put together, but through the IDP agent, if you want to call it that, it puts it together for the developer, because that's what the developer specifically wanted. And rather than going through the loop of making a request and it goes on the backlog and it ends up on a roadmap and whatever, it's actually the agent was able to gel things together enough to make it work for the developer. And that agent is autonomous and can do that sort of stuff. So it's kind of the, it's the platform engineer agent. So we've had SRE AI agents. Now we can have platform engineer agents as well, AI agents as well. But yeah, I think that was kind of the interesting point. So we looked at kind of, that sort of becoming a reality, and then also organizations, when it comes to platform engineering, really converging around particular tools. So we mentioned things like Backstage, Crossplane, OpenTelemetry, Argo, CD, GitOps, kind of being, or Argo CD kind of being part of that sort of GitOps movement. Kyverno, of course, for things like policy, and Copilots, kind of AI Copilots being part of that. So anything else from you, Courtney, on episode 6 that you kind of recollect or picked up on?
No, I would encourage everyone who loves a good analogy and a good laugh to watch that episode.
Definitely.
It was fantastic.
We had loads of them. We went from quite a eclectic collection of analogies and stuff.
But
really creative and insightful, and will then entice you to want to watch the rest of the series.
But I can remind people a lot on all of the episode that Courtney is a very good at wrapping up the discussion. We'll leave up to her.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because my son is outside the door or about to wake up.
Right. Well, I think that's a good point to finish the live stream on. We've covered quite a lot. We've gone on for quite a while, but I think it was worth doing because there was certainly a lot to discuss. Okay, so hope you guys have enjoyed the live stream, and thank you very much, Courtney, for rejoining us again. It was really good to actually have you on. I think it would have been poorer if you weren't able to make it for the Afterthoughts live stream. So thank you for joining us again. Hopefully we'll definitely be doing some more stuff with you going forward. Saim, thank you very much for being my co-host and partner for the Code to Culture series, and for taking on half the burden off my shoulders. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope you've enjoyed doing it. This was our first collab. There will be more collaborations between me and Saim as well. Before we go, a couple of points. So please do subscribe to the channels. That's the Cloud Therapist channel, my channel, and Cloud Native FM, Saim Safdar's channel. It may not seem like a big thing, but it is for us. We really appreciate every subscription, and for us to try and hit the next point in our sort of subscription levels, and the ability for us to make more videos and make more of this kind of content, and do the next series. Talking of the next series, shall we do a quick reveal, Saim, of what that series is going to be about?
Oh, yes, Richard, why not? We need to actually remove a lot of suspense because the upcoming series is coming up. And you will be busy once again, Richard. Sorry for that.
Yes,
I'm the one who will make you busy all the time.
I know. So the next series, folks, is going to be about observability. So that's what we're going to be focusing on next. It's going to be a 4-part series, not 6 this time, because we actually might end up overlapping it with another series. So we're going to have our hands full for the next 6 months. And we promise we're going to try and finish it in the next 6 months as well. All 4 episodes, 2 on Saim Safdar's channel and 2 on mine, hopefully. And this time, less diaries and schedules to coordinate, hopefully. And hopefully we'll get it done in a shorter time.
And hopefully in the near future, Courtney will help us make our series into the foundation as a sandbox for a graduated series.
Oh man.
Yes. Courtney can be the producer for the next series. She doesn't have to be in the episodes, but she can just be the producer and kind of project manage us so we can get it done on time.
I mean, I can project manage. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. There you go.
Sure.
There you go. You've nursed Carvana into a graduated project. So there you go, and the community and so on. So there you go. I'm sure you can do that.
Courtney also actually spent more than 10 hours. I will calculate all of them, but she was the one who actually spent more than 10 hours for our Code to Culture series. So Richard,
yes.
In itself is an achievement.
Yeah. I didn't even count the number of hours. I think we did go 6+, certainly. I think I stopped counting at 6 or something. But we certainly did a lot more than that. So huge series, and I think it was good achievement.
We don't measure here.
No, we don't measure. Yeah, we don't measure that. Yeah, unless we're doing some marketing or something. But okay, all right. So please do support us by subscribing. Thank you, Courtney, again. Thank you, Saim, for everything. I think that's it for now. Observability, as we said, is the next series that we're going to do. We aren't going to say anything more about it and who's going to be on and stuff. Although I've already secured at least one guest for us, Saim. So you'll be pleased about that. Who is actually very much at the cutting edge of observability and is quite opinionated, which is great. And that's what we like to see on all of the videos that we do. Okay, that's it for this live stream. Thank you very much for sticking around with us. If you're watching this later as a playback, please go and watch the Code to Culture series. As I said, the playlist is somewhere here, or it's actually available on my channel as well. So you can go and look at it on the playlist list, so to speak. And binge watch it Netflix style. Who knows? Anyway, until the next one, we'll talk to you later, and bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye.